Before we begin our video, I just want to say that for those wondering where I've been lately, I've been on TikTok. I recently had a baby and work a 50-hour plus job, so TikTok is much easier for me to do content on. But I will still be doing my videos on here from time to time, as you can see from this one here. With that, let's begin jumping into a classic game that a lot of people remember fondly but not enough people talk about. Lately on my TikTok channel, I've been on a weird retro binge. I've been streaming a lot of classic games like Final Fantasy 7 through 9, the PS1 era Resident Evil games, and more. While a lot of these games I've played many times and remember quite well, it wasn't until I reached this one series where my memories seemed to be blank. This game series I'm talking about is Parasite Eve. See, I played Parasite Eve quite a bit growing up, and I have a lot of fond memories about it. But for some reason, while the memories of me playing it are intact, the memories of the game itself elude me. Obviously, I played this game, I still have my memory card to prove it. But I hadn't played this game since my freshman year of high school, and most likely that's why when I booted it up on stream for the first time, I only remember the intro for this game. For those who are worried about spoilers, don't be. We won't be going into spoiler territory in this retrospective video. One, because the game is from 1998 and by now the story has been spoken about for many years. And two, because the story is confusing as all hell. I will, however, start by saying Parasite Eve is a sequel. Yeah, that's right. It's a sequel to a book titled Parasite Eve. This was a horror novel that released in Japan in 1995. At the time, horror novels were not a big deal in Japan, and with the release of this novel, it took off and resonated in a way no one expected. The book became so popular, it was adapted into a movie, manga, and of course, the games. I first encountered Parasite Eve sometime in 2000. This is when the second game was released. I wanted to buy the game, but my mom wouldn't let me because on the back of the game, it said it was rated M for mature due to sexual situations. I didn't understand why this was not allowed since I was able to play games with a ton of violence such as the Resident Evil games or watch movies like The Terminator, Alien, and other things. Joke's on you, Mom, I got the game anyways. And guess what? I see no sexual situations in the game outside of cleavage. I digress, however. I played this game for hours, beating it multiple times. But somehow, I only remembered the opera intro and the Chrysler building. And so as I play this game now, 24 years later, did it capture the same feelings I had when I first played it? Because I always remembered the game fondly. I played through the entire game twice on my TikTok channel, and as I played, I was joined by viewers who also remember the game fondly. I guess we're getting old at this point. And as I played, I started to remember why I enjoyed the game in the first place. See, because this game is over 25 years old at this point. Damn, now I'm really feeling old. This game is old enough to have its car insurance rates go down, and it's old enough to rent a car. I have some issues with the game that I didn't used to have. While many praise its combat, I have some issues with it. The movement is sloppy, and the spells such as haste that fix that sloppiness don't really last long enough to really take full use of it. This wasn't something I remember complaining about, but now as I revisit the game, it's hard to ignore. And no, the movement complaint isn't because I'm used to newer games at this point. This is a complaint I have by the game's era standards. You have Resident Evil games, for example, where the movement is tight even for tank controls. Aya's movement in Parasite Eve, in and out of combat, is sluggish, and when you run, it feels like for every 4 steps she takes, it's really just 1. This made dodging enemy attacks difficult and map movement in the areas very slow. But it's fine. I remember liking other things about the game, so hopefully they held up. And they did. I really enjoy the customization mechanics the game had when it came to the weapons and armor. It made for really engaging gameplay. I love being able to make a super powered handgun that had spread shots like a shotgun, or shot like a machine gun. I love being able to use that same handgun and add elemental effects to it, or poisons, or sleep. This is a type of customization that you don't see too often in games these days, or even for games back then. The downside to this customization system is that you need what's called tools and super tools to be able to customize and carry over stats or abilities. And unfortunately, there aren't enough tools to go around. But that is also offset by the BP system. When you fight enemies and level up, you gain BP. The BP is used to customize Aya's weapons or armor stats, as well as customize Aya's own abilities, such as being able to carry more gear, or her ATB meter, the active time battle. But usually it's not recommended to use the BP for those as they level up on their own. Speaking of leveling, this game has one of the weirdest leveling systems I've seen. Parasite Eve treats leveling up to level 38 like any other RPG would. The higher you gain levels, the more XP it takes to gain those levels, which is pretty standard stuff. But the weird parts happen as you get past level 36. From level 36 to 38, it takes the most XP to level up, almost like as if those were the equivalent to level 98 and 99 for most other games. But when you pass level 38, you all of a sudden don't need to gain a bunch of XP to level. Instead, you're leveling up almost every other fight. Then once you reach around level 91, the game automatically levels you to level 96. This is the weirdest thing, and for a good while I thought I did some sort of glitch. I don't remember ever doing this when I first played the game, and so it made this playthrough very interesting. I remember loving the music as a teenager playing this, and the music is still incredible. There wasn't a time where I got tired of hearing the music, which made playing the game 2 times in a row a joy. The music fit the game's moments extremely well and made the tense situations even more tense. I guess my nostalgia is showing because I remember music more than anything when it comes to a lot of the games from my past. I really love the set pieces in this game. You could tell that the development team put a lot of effort into the game with how each area is designed with the pre-rendered backgrounds. The police station looks like a police station you would see in a movie. The museum looks like a museum would, and so on. The only location I have any issue with is the Chrysler building. And I have a problem with this location because it never changes. You have 60 floors to go through and they are all the same. This wouldn't be a problem if you didn't spend so much time in here. And I know this is an optional dungeon. But the issue here is that the dungeon offers a secret ending on New Game Plus, and there's no other way around that. So you end up spending a god-awful amount of time in here looking at the same location over and over until you get to the last few floors where it starts to change and become mutated because the final boss is there. Combine this with Aya's slow movement I spoke about and you get a location that feels like it will take you weeks to clear. And since we're on the topic of the Chrysler building, let's address the New Game Plus, or EX mode as it's called in this game. While most games these days have New Game Plus, not many offer what the older games used to. This is because a lot of the content that these older games had in New Game Plus is now offered as DLC where you have to spend extra money to get them. So games like fighting games where you could unlock the characters are now locked behind a paywall, and games like this that offer a new location on a New Game Plus are also locked behind some sort of story DLC. EX mode offers a couple of things besides the new location in the Chrysler building. It also increases the difficulty of the enemies, including the bosses outside of the Chrysler building. This difficulty increase continues for each new round up to round 4. This offers a new challenge for those wanting to play the game again with the standard weapons you find within the game. New Game Plus also allows you to carry over one gun and one armor to the new round, which is where you can build your super weapon and armors, which honestly completely negates the increase in difficulty. The secret ending in the Chrysler building also does not count towards the ending of the current round. This is because the Chrysler building ending is not the canon ending, and so it does not end the game like finishing the story would. Speaking of the story, it's not a long game. The game's main story is about 10 hours long, and so playing through the game in one sitting is extremely possible, especially on EX mode, where you'll be one-shotting everything in the main story if you carried over your strongest weapon and armor. Parasite Eve is considered by fans to be a survival horror RPG, as it contains many elements that you would find in a Resident Evil game. There's a limited inventory, even though you can increase it, and you're constantly having to empty your inventory by dumping stuff into a container, or by discarding it or using it. What makes this inventory frustrating is that it gives you things that you cannot discard or even remove from your inventory. For example, you'll have to always have a club available in your inventory. This is because if you ever run out of ammo, you always have a way to fight back, even though you have your parasite abilities to use to fight. One of the side characters also gives you good luck charms that you cannot discard, and you cannot put them in your item box until you're done with that chapter. These charms don't do anything except take up valuable inventory. As for the horror element, the game has more body horror than scares, as this is not a jump scare kind of game. There's a lot of mutations and fire starter situations going on within the game that honestly makes me wish this game would get remade so we can experience this with a fresh coat of paint. A remake, not a remaster, though I wouldn't be opposed to a remaster either. Speaking of remake, I've been asked many times how I would want this game to be remade if they ever did do it. And honestly, I would love for this to be an open world game, as much as I don't like open world games. As the game takes place in New York around Christmas, and since Aya is a cop, it would make sense for her to be constantly responding to emergency requests because of the problems that are going on within the story. Coupled with a more action-based over-the-shoulder perspective while keeping the RPG elements, it would be a fun time. Sadly, this will not happen, as Square Enix does not own the rights to Parasite Eve. The rights are solely owned by the creator, Hideaki Sina, and as of this video, he has no intention of letting Square create another game. Revisiting Parasite Eve after all these years has given me a new perspective on the game. It was something I remembered fondly, and as an adult, you sometimes have to wonder if revisiting those old memories is worth doing, as you might destroy that fond memory you have from your childhood. But in this case, I was glad I did. Not only did I remember why I enjoyed it as a kid, but I have a new appreciation for the game as an adult. And since I haven't played this game in more than 20 years, it almost feels like my younger self was playing it with me, telling me where to go and what to do. It gave me the opportunity to spend time with that part of me that I've been ignoring for a long time. And I could see the smile of my younger self as he was happy to know that I still play games as an adult. I wonder, however, if I will feel the same about the second game. So I'm glad that you guys are still here watching me. And again, I mean, I apologize for not being around like I used to be. Just when life hits, life hits. And sometimes there's nothing you can do about that. And you're probably wondering, why come back and do a video on such an old game? And honestly, I've been enjoying my games more than I have been for a very long time. And revisiting some of my older games on top of playing newer games and taking my time with my newer games and not rushing them has given me back my appreciation of gaming. And as a content creator, that was something that I started losing. So I thank you guys for watching the video and being here with me. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. Happy gaming.